Hello, crafty friends. You may be looking at what's in front of you here and think, I've lost my crafty mind. And maybe I have, but I have temporarily transported myself back to the 80s and 90s. I am participating in a swap called Craft Purge Takes It Back to the 80s and 90s, and it's hosted by Toni, who is Craft Purge here on YouTube. This swap required a shaped loaded pocket or envelope and 5 crafted items from a list that she provided. And everything was supposed to you're supposed to try and fit it in the pocket. And you were not supposed to get too specific, like, in other words, like, don't make it a Hello Kitty or like strawberry shortcake. Something like that swap. So we were trying to keep it just like icons of the 80s and 90s, let's say. So I was really excited about this. I grew up in the 80s. Yes. I'm not going to tell you my exact age, but I was a young adult in the 90s. So that'll give you the range. So yes, I was all about big hair and neon colors and Reebok sneakers, some disco, you name it. Even rock and roll. I tried it all. I had some real interesting haircuts back then. But honestly, it was time of my life. So fun. I wouldn't take it back for a second. We were crazy and expressed ourselves for sure. So anyway, let me dive into this swap. So it just so happens that KS Craft had a fun release this month that included some records and cassette tapes, and recently she put out a Walkman. So I've tried to incorporate some of those things from my design team package into my swaps. It was a make to receive to. I have made 3, which is really unusual for me. I have a super small craft space, as I've said in the past, and it's really hard for me to do 3 at a time. But this one, I don't know. I just, I did my best because I wanted Toni to not have to unpack one of these puppies because it's something. Anyway, so let me start by taking apart this one. I'll share at the end how I've packaged it completely and show you what I'm using as my shaped loaded pocket or envelope. So this month KS Craft came out with a record player mini album, and part of the die set is this container. I'm going to call it a container or box. It does not necessarily have to have this record attached to the back. I did that. This is actually the record that would be your part of your mini album. So I've made it part of the back, and this is my shaped pocket or box. So I made it like a little like a record album holding thing. So that's what I did. I used a digital paper collection and mixed it in with some papers like in neon colors and different patterns, paint, splatters, that sort of thing. And so no specific paper collection per se, just a combination of things that I thought would represent the 80s. Well, I kind of went more towards the 80s because, as I said, I was a young professional in the 90s. And the 80s just really spoke to me, but I did mix a few other things in. So that's my shaped container. Let's start. I did a little trim sample because I have some pretty fun trims in my stash, and I made this little checkerboard trim spool and couldn't fit them all on there, so ended up just putting a little sampling of some trims and added one just folded in the back in the neon green, so, and just put a little bow on it. So that's one of the items I'm providing. I also made a sequin mix. I didn't make any shakers, did I? No, I made one shaker. But I did have a hard time finding sequins to go with my paper selection. And I did try to add some black to this mix, and it looked awful. So ended up picking them all out, and that was very tedious, but that's how I roll. So I did make a nice one with just some like neon green and pink and some silver. And there's some little halfbacks in there and stuff too. And then I made this bag topper, I'm gonna call it, and that's put on with temporary adhesive. And if they want, they could just use this as an embellishment, take the rosette off. I have these wood bow cutouts from Michael's, and I painted them with neon colors, and then put some glitter on top. I die cut this Chuck Taylor sneaker and some really fun checkerboard. I don't know, Vans are back in again, but back in the 80s, that's where they started, the Vans. We had the little surf cult thing going on at one point. I stuck a Rubik's Cube back here, and I made some flowers and some neon colors, because to me, like, how can you give a swap without a flower on it? So I just found some really fun papers that kind of all reminded me of the bright colors and patterns of the 80s, and just, I know it looks so garish compared to my normal crafting, which is like a little more subtle. But I really had fun with this, I have to say. So if it offends you, you don't have to watch. I really did have fun with this. So so that's my sequin mix that I'm sending. So 5 items. I made this thinking I was going to put this on the front of this. This was going to be my shaped container, but it turned out so darn cute. I couldn't bring myself to hot glue it to the front of that box. So this is just going to be like a standalone embellishment, I'm going to call it. So I believe this is a Scrap Diva Designs roller skate die. When I first started collecting cutting dies, I unfortunately took them out of their package and didn't label whose it was. So I'm much more careful now. But anyway, so I'm pretty sure it's Scrap Diva, but it might not be. Don't quote me. So I had fun. All 3 of my swaps are exactly the same, but different. So, you know, like I die cut all the pieces out in lime green, but then I mixed up the pieces between the 3 different roller skates, so to speak. So, you know, the other roller skates, as a matter of fact, here's one that's handy, is slightly different, but the same. So, I did a little bit of stitching on this, not a lot, and then I drew some stitches on there. I don't know if you can see it. A lot of things are popped up on foam. I absolutely love this roller skate. This is what I would want my roller skate to look like should I ever go back to my Friday night skates. Oh, that was fun. I put a little garment clip on the side with rainbow and a set of headphones. I popped up this word sentiment, which is a new word sentiment from Scrap Diva this summer. It was part of a like a groovy kind of themed words, but let's roll. I just thought that was appropriate, and pop that up on like a little folded piece of paper and put a tassel on it. I think it's super cute. It took me a long time to make this, I have to say, so that's why I couldn't bring myself to stick it to the front of anything. So that's my next item. I made one of the KS Craft cassette tapes. This is just an embellishment. I did find this really fun music paper somewhere, either Hobby Lobby or Michael's, and I just stitched it. Anyway, I stuck a dangle on the side with a boom box, because that's where, of course, you would put your cassette tapes when you were listening to your, not downloaded, excuse me, that would be a CD, your mixtapes that you literally would listen to the radio, and if somebody slammed the door in the house, you had that in your tape. I didn't have the direct you know, way to record them. As I recall, I just played the radio and stuck my boombox in front of it. Anyway, these words were new this month from KS Craft, part of her music words sentiments. There was two different ones, and then I just embellished this with some little stickers and cabochons that I had in my stash. So that was fun. I could have made that a shaker, but such a small area didn't seem worthwhile. So I made 3 of those, 1 for each swap recipient. I'm not going to bother putting that back in there. This I'm super crazy about. Okay, so at part of that set from KS Craft with the record mini album, you get a record cutting die, and I was like, oh, that's going to make a perfect bag topper. So I made 3 bag toppers, 1 for each one of the swaps, and I did some print and cut on my Cricut with some 80s icons that I downloaded from the internet. I didn't use a lot of them. I thought I was going to use a lot more of them, and as a result, I'm gifting them to the swap recipients, the printouts. I do use like a matte photo paper when I print. Oh, my little star fell off. When I print and cut, I use matte photo paper. I feel like it just has a really good thickness to it, and the colors are very vibrant. So this is another one of the words from the KS Craft Music words that came out this month. And I just had a little fun with this one. So this is my bag topper for my shaped memory decks, which I think is awesome. I posted this on Instagram with a picture of my actual Walkman from, I believe it was probably the early 90s, maybe the late 80s, that I used for training. And it was a sports model, so it had like a hand strap. You could stick your hand through and hold this while you were running. Anyway, I think this is so cool. I absolutely love this cutting die. This set of headphones, actually, she shows it down here, but I bent it up just to make it more stable. I cut it out of some of the paper, that digital paper that I downloaded, that has like an 80s vibe to it. This is a mixed tape that we're listening to, and I put some little, I think they're called diamond dots in there in some neon colors. I just absolutely love how this turned out. It's super cute, and it's not actually a memory decks. I just stuck a memory decks bottom in between the front and back layers to make it a memory decks. So that's my memory decks, and I put a little dangle here on the side with a mixed tape and some funky beads and whatnot. So there's my memory decks. Super happy about that. And that was my next item. These are the die cuts that I'm gifting. I'm not going to go through them all, but I actually went to the trouble of printing out some movies that I remember getting from Blockbuster. Please be kind and rewind. If you know, you know. Some of my favorite movies from those days. Don't judge me, but Ferris Bueller's Day Off. Yes, all day. Ghostbusters, Fast Times at Ridgemont High, hilarious, little racy, 16 Candles, and Pretty in Pink. So I didn't end up using them. I couldn't figure out how to do it. I couldn't figure out what to do with them that would be meaningful, so I'm just putting them in the extra cut aparts here. So like there's a lot of MTV things in here, some of the words from the 80s, some of the slang, like rad and yas queen, dope, just some fun things. And then I also made from the new KS Craft release, the music release this month, I think it was August, Not sure when this video will be airing, but these cute little record sleeves. Oh my gosh, so cute. They come in 2 sizes. I was going to go to the trouble of, like, you know, printing some album names on them, but I just didn't have enough time, like, you know, Michael Jackson's Off the Wall, or, you know, whatever. Just Cars, Candy-O. Oh my goodness, so fun. All those great things. So that's another item I am gifting a swap recipient. And this is the only shaker I made. I can't believe I only made 1 shaker, but I made the motel keychain, and I'm leaving that kind of plain, so that, you know, they have something somewhat useful. Although the colors are so funky, I don't know how anybody's going to be able to use this except in like an 80s themed or 90s themed swap. And then last but not least, I made like a little trinket box. So I recently got the We Are Makers shadow box punch board, and I am obsessed with it. It is so fun. You can make shadow boxes of any size and shape. You are not limited to the 3 sizes or 4 sizes that they give you the directions for. There's a ton of tutorials on YouTube, and there's some like just simple math just to make them any size you want. So I made a small, this is 4 by 4 on the outside, shadow box, and I put some real fun little trinkets in there, and all, you know, like with an 80s, 90s themes, Hello Kitty, balloon dogs, roller skates, blah, blah, blah. And then made the sleeve, so it's like a matchbox sleeve. And then just layered up some of that ephemera that I print and cut from my Cricut, and stuck some just, you know, a bow and some like fun little things on it. So I just thought that would be a fun way to gift some trinkets. And last but not least, I'm going to show you how I'm sending it. I didn't make a dangle, but I made like a, I don't know even know what you would call this. I guess it's a dangle, but it's you know, made with waxed string, and I tied them and just thought it was fun. It was just kind of like a bag charm. I'm going to call it a bag charm. You know, just a bunch of junk and bright colors that I'm going to tie on the outside. Oh, there was one other thing that I made. I made a very silly wand. So I had these silly straws, and that was big back then, and put this piece of ephemera. I don't even know if you would call it ephemera. It's like a rubber Game Boy, and made just like a little wand, and I printed out Craft Purge takes it back to the 80s and 90s and put it on there, and that's going to be standing up in the box. So that's everything I made for my swap partners. I'm going to show you a package, how I'm packaging it. And it's going to be really hard to get into frame, so let me pull back a little bit here. And you can kind of see. So I did make a tag for all 3 of them. Again, just printed out her flyer for it, and you know, put my information on the back of that. I love the 80s. And then here's where I'm putting the little bag charm that I made. So that's everything I made for this. It was a lot of fun, totally out of my wheelhouse in terms of what I like to craft in terms of colors. But it's really fun every now and again just to, you know, push yourself outside of your comfort zone and take advantage of a theme that speaks to you. So I urge you to do so. I hope I've inspired you to do so, and I will see you all on the next video. Thanks, and have a crafty day.